Moving ahead, the next session on the day is on policy accreditation and reporting, enabling SDGs into governance. The session focuses on how institutional policies, accreditation framework, and governance mechanism can be aligned with the SDG, ensuring that sustainability is not an isolated initiative but a core principle of educational excellence. We are privileged to once again welcome a familiar and highly respected name, Dr. Shounak Choudhary, founder, Benyon Edu Services, who's a dynamic education leader, policy expert, and institutional strategist who has been at the forefront of embedding sustainability and measurable outcome into academic governance system. You might recall that Dr. Shaunak delivered an excellent session on 6 October on assessment and evaluation for SDG impact. That session received an overwhelming response from all the participants for its clarity, practicality, and the actionable framework it provided for measuring SDG integration into higher education. Today, Dr. Shaunak takes us a step further, guiding us on how institutions can translate their vision for sustainable development into policies, reporting system, and accreditation process that truly make an impact. His deep understanding on educational ecosystem, coupled with his hands-on experience in capacity building and policy formulation, making him the perfect voice for this session. So without any further delay, let's welcome once again Dr. Shaunak Rai Choudhary, founder, Benyon Edu Services, for his enlightening talk on policy, accreditation, and reporting, enabling SDGs into governance. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you for this entire introduction. I hope I can live up to the expectations that you have built on me. Right
You
now,
have
of
given us
course,
a wonderful session on six, so you have set your own expectation that this bar has been set by you only. I am just recalling all those things that you delivered on that day.
it's good to know. Then, thank you and thanks a lot for
Yeah.
having me invited again. Now, actually, this was a kind of a googly question for me because I have never heard of, right, of the topics that were top, matlab how to convert it into a parameter is something which I had never heard of, right? So therefore, I'll tell you what I started off with and what I'm going to go do now. So
Okay.
basically, so this is what happened. Is my slide visible
Yes, it's going to be, yeah, visible.
from the middle? But yeah, I think it's visible.
Yes.
Okay, so basically, assessment evaluation for SDG impact is something which I have been working on this, but I've never found it at a meso level. Well, meso as in at a practical, actionable level as to what to do, how to do. I have never heard of this. So the first step, of course, that I do is I went back and tried to Google up what is it, what are the kinds of frameworks that are available, and just moving with my no ways which you are kind of the first part. I'll just briefly talk of what all measurements are usually available. The second part is my extrapolation of what could be done, right? Because currently I could not figure out anything which will be relevant for this kind of a discussion here. Right? So I'll start off in that note only. So basically, okay, wait, I also have a separate notes. Now these are the basic SDG assessment frameworks which are currently available. So there is the impact ranking, there is the UI green metric, the Niti Aayog has one, SDG impact, NAC has one, PRME has one, right? Now, if you want, I can also share, I had a supplementary note for it. Which I'll come to. But what I understood is that these frameworks assess what we do, right? There is absolutely no way ahead to figure out how we can manage or improve those outcomes. Right? And that became a fundamental problem in the way I was structuring the presentation, right? So there are these outcomes, right? I can share that also. Uh, Just a second. So this is, I'm sorry, I'm presenting this as a note, right? So there is the impact rankings, right, which basically does, I mean, which is across research, stewardship, outreach, teaching, and all these SDGs that you connect are kind of far-fetched. I mean, see, publication citations related to SDG may not give an SDG outcome, right? A curriculum coverage may not give an SDG outcome. And if you see most of the parameters that we have here, I mean, across these metrics, and I can give you these, right? They are, while they focus on certain parameters, they can tell us what we do, but they will never tell us how we want to improve or how we can improve, right? So therefore, from what I take it, this is more of a macro level understanding of how SDGs are being implemented. But if we have to create a path of excellence, then what is important is that we need to figure out a way wherein it can start guiding us as to what should we do to excel in this feature. So therefore, my presentation, while I can touch on these, maybe in a Q&A, right? I would like to focus more on what can be done, right? Because that is where I guess my utility might come in more, right, than telling you that this is available, and this is available. So let's get back to what my presentation would entail. So basically, whatever we have now, there are these, one of the biggest things, one of the strengths of it is the visibility. I mean, so if you create anything with respect to these ranks, you're, you are, I mean, it gives you visibility, right? Even if you publish in some, if you do something at a Niti Aayog SDG index, that initiative itself is receiving publicity, right? So there is definitely visibility. There are benchmarking projects going on. There are these benchmarking programs are therefore being linked to what is the global relevance of it. But if you just cut all these down, what you realize is that these are very fragmented coverage. See, the SDGs, education can be linked to SDGs, but SDGs were not created for educational institutes alone. And therefore, if we have that, I mean, that breaking up of a macro problem into a micro problem, or at least a meso problem, what happens is, I mean, while sounds good at a macro level, it's monitoring availability at a meso level or an organizational or as a micro level, right? There are absolutely no way today, right, wherein this can be incorporated. For example, every organization is likely to take a different path depending on the leadership and the culture. So certain projects would become more important to those organizations than the others. I mean, the kind we talk of as if every faculty has been born to create an SDG outcome, which is not true. The SDG outcome has to, the faculty training itself is a part of a process, right? And the third thing, there is no weightage whatsoever in creating the process. So if there is an outcome, we say that the SDG goal has been aligned. But what about the process? I mean, and therefore there is a definite outcome bias to the way we are associating SDGs. Again, please understand these are my reflections on whatever is going on, right? So, which brings us to what I believe is why there is a need for an improvement. Number one, we have to move away from just compliance and start building capability, right? We have to start building an institutional culture of continuous learning wherein SDGs can themselves be embedded within the larger academic outcomes, right? And it is not just the outcome, it's the processes. I mean, so if we start today, the outcome can come 5 years later. But does that mean that we are not doing anything today? Now, my answer is no. And therefore, we need to start creating this culture and continuous learning. We have to start focusing on capability more rather than compliance. And only if we do these two, then we will be able to integrate them within the larger ambit of teaching, research, and operations. Which means that if we have to start assessing SDGs as an organization, we have to shift from the number of activities that we are doing to a way to assess how we are impacting the society, right, across all the 17 parameters that are there. So this is how I define my problem. Now, the current issues, they're all isolated efforts. They lack they lack a feedback loop. For example, we can create a waste treatment plant, right? But does that end our task, or is that a starting block for something more, right? What about the capabilities that we build as an institutions, which become a block for a future development of capabilities, right? So therefore, we see things as an isolated effort. There is definitely a lack of feedback loops, the learning that is going in, or how we can capture that, right? And finally, there is no common language. Common language in the sense that how do we come up with a coherent approach of excellence, right? If we are just talking of national level important projects or local level important projects to the overall UN guideline on the SDGs. And somewhere, I mean, for a small community, maybe waste disposal would be a great step. For a different community, waste disposable in itself may not be a great step, right? It need to be accompanied with something else, or maybe something else, or built onto something else. Now, for some reason, those parameters are never embedded within the current system. So therefore, my conclusion was that most of these assessments that they were doing are basically activity counts. They're being counted at a aggregate level to say that we have done 10 initiatives, 20 initiatives, 40 initiatives, maybe 100 initiatives. But how do they really add up into sustainable development based on furthering the SDG goals? At least I could not find anything in terms of that assessment, right? So therefore, I come up with, see, there are the governances, there are two models which are available today. One is what you called as the Malcolm Baldrige model, right, which talks of organizational excellence, and of course the other one is balanced scorecard, heavily used in terms of managing organizations. And so basically, in my presentation, what I've done is I have adapted these two to create a model on how to monitor SDG excellence. And that is what my presentation will talk on. Now, if there is any queries on that, or with respect to the approach, I can pause and take some questions before moving ahead. Um, any questions? Okay, great.
Sir, we can
Okay,
proceed.
okay, great. Thank you. Okay. So basically, we come to what is the Malcolm Baldrige Excellence Model, right, which is MBEF. Now, there are 7 different categories of measurements which are there. So there is leadership, there is strategy, there is stakeholders, knowledge more in terms of how knowledge is getting created, right? The kind of workforce capabilities that are being developed, the operational capabilities that are there, and of course the results. And mostly this, by adopting Malcolm Baldrige or adaptations of this model. For example, if you're aware, Tata's use this model called Tata Business Excellence Model, which is essentially a customization of Malcolm Baldrige Excellence Framework. Right. So these, by analyzing these 7 parameters, we actually will try to answer why is an organization doing an SDG, and B, how is it doing in SDG, right? Now, in contrast, if we do the balance scorecard, now balance scorecard against has 4 different, see, unlike Malcolm Baldrige, The
Sorry to
emphasis,
interrupt you, sir. Sir, slides are not
yes,
changing. It is on the specific slide that is defining the problem statement.
is it so?
Now it is on the balance scorecard.
Wait, where did I miss? Where was I
From
and where
the
did we?
seven points you are explaining, we haven't seen that. It's not on the slide.
This one?
I was thinking of its mine not working, but actually it's been stuck from last few slides. So that's why I told you.
Okay. Think, great,
Now
thank
it
you.
is the MBEF, that is Malcolm Bridge Excellence Framework.
Yeah. Now it's visible.
Yeah,
Sir,
make
can
it
you please
like
make it full screen?
The
It's not
problem is
full.
again, I'll make it full screen.
Um,
Are we here?
yeah, visible, but it's not full screen basis.
This full screen.
Make it in
How
a
do I make it?
slideshow, sir.
And I'm making it in a slideshow. Just a minute. Let me switch my video off. Mm,
Sir, on the bottom of your screen where there is this bar, which is for setting the percentage of the projection, there is one small
right.
icon there. You can press that. No.
Not this one, sir.
Sir, at the same
Towards the left. Towards the left, it is an icon. A TV icon is there. Just click on that. Right.
yes, click on it.
I clicked on it. Is it visible?
No. Yeah,
Normally,
you
by
clicked
clicking
on
it, it becomes a full screen. But if it is not getting, then it's okay. We are able to see the slides.
Ah, that's true. That's true. You continue, sir.
What I can do is, I mean, mail the slides. I don't know.
That will be great, sir. Rest, we are able
Just
to see the slides.
wait, let me try once. This is odd.
So you go to
Why
slideshow
should
now. Slideshow.
I'll go to
Uh,
slideshow?
no. But when you are going on the bar na, upstairs, then
Yeah.
transition, animation, slideshow.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, from the current slide.
Second one.
Current. Yes.
It's not working.
Is it solving your problem?
It's not working. Leave, sir. You can continue.
It's okay.
So what do I do? I mean, is it working?
Yes, we are able to see the slides. We are able to see the slides. You
Okay.
don't have any issue with that. You please proceed ahead.
Okay. So basic and then so Malcolm Baldrige model essentially measures the process, right? While if you have the balance scorecard, it takes into account things to become more measurable and what we want to do. So again, balance scorecard has four key themes. One is the financial, one is the stakeholders. I mean, who are we? So in this context is what percentage of SDG project budget are, I mean, what is being budgeted and how much is being spent on it as a proportion to what is the benchmark, right? Uh, who do we want to address through our SDG outreach? That would be the stakeholder part. uh, what kind of efficiencies are we trying to build up? What kind of scores are we? So, for example, if you are doing a waste management, it's unlikely that we will be able to achieve 100% in one go. So, therefore, I mean, we need to figure out that see even 60% is good or 50% is good. So, basically, we need to figure out what are the benchmark scores that we are looking at and plot our outcome based on that. Then what kind of learning and growth are we looking at? For example, we are undergoing a session wherein faculty are being taught, but it does not or it may not translate into direct SDG outcomes. So even these processes of grooming should be factored in how we see the growth of our SDG capital if I may use that term, within our institutional frameworks. So the entire focus has to be that the SDGs have to become measurable and they have to start becoming more manageable. Now let us look at how this why how bridge would work, right? So basically, with the help of the Baldrige model, we can define the purpose and what are the governance features that we want to embed within our programs. The balance scorecard can be used to define what kind of performance matrices we want and measure what is the kind of outcome that we are looking at within a typical time frame. Now, if we just club these two together, we can create an entire map on how we want to create our SDG assessment parameter. We start off with the vision. Now, from that vision, we map the strategy. The strategy is the Baldrige framework, which had the 7 categories: leadership, strategy, stakeholders, knowledge, workforce, operations, and results. Right. And then from these, we move to how to measure these outcomes through what we have as the balance scorecard, right? And also we need to understand that every time these are not absolute scores. So, for example, if the outcome is to get 50% waste reduction, even 50% is 100% achievement in this case, right? So the measurement cannot has to be dependent on what kind of an outcome we want to measure. And finally, once we have put the vision, the strategy, and the measurement in place, we can start creating a scorecard which will start assessing what kind of impact the SDGs are making within the institutional frame. Right. Now, this is just if I want to integrate the three. So, I mean, the 7 parameters that we were talking of, right? So, leadership and stakeholder would broadly form within SDG 16. The strategy, internal processes, I mean, the strategy which will drive the internal processes would relate to SDG 4. The workforce, which will lead to the kind of learning and the growth which is possible to SDG 8. The operations to internal processes, SDG 12, and results and financials, of course, to the partnerships, which is SDG 17. Now, similarly, we can create a institutional SDG scorecard. An example of this is like a percentage policy compliance. Like, so if we want to do governance, I mean, if we want to have an SDG program, what percentage of our time should be dedicated to it? So that we can call it as a percentage policy compliance. In terms of strategy, how much percentage of SDG compliant courses are we talking of? In terms of research, how many or how much funded SDG projects are we undertaking? In terms of operations, what is the carbon score that we are able to achieve or reduce? In terms of outreach, what are the types of relevant partnerships that we are making? Now, the idea is that instead of so so the focus here is that we move from what is called from a macro level understanding or a sky view understanding of what is SDG. We move to a more accessible parametric wise assessment on how we can improve our SDG compliance. Right now, well, this is again from what I believe is, I mean, if we have the impact rankings that are there, they are basically measuring the stakeholders' perspective. The UI green metric, I mean, the parameters are actually measuring the internal processes that are there. Now, NAC focuses on learning and growth. Similarly, PRME is a stakeholder-based perspective. Uh, Niti Aayog's SDG index is captures the finance. So the idea of this model, I mean, I'm calling this Malcolm Baldrige plus BSc enhanced model, is not to replace the systems. Like these systems are there. The only problem that exists today is that these systems do not tell how to drive excellence. And therefore, by creating this Baldrige plus BSc Enhance Plus, we can create a system which can augment the current matrices to create a framework or a framework of matrices that an institution can aspire for to create a better SDG linkage. Now, if that is the case, this is how I see this working out. So the first thing would be to set the SDG targets, right? Which is a customary first step to any borderage strategy. So there can be like 160 plus targets. Now, if there are so many targets, it's possible that we don't want to cater to all of them. So let us take that sets of targets which you want to cater to. So this in typical Baldrige framework is what you call as a strategy setting. Now, once we have done that, we create a matrix form of what all we want to do and what kind of matrices we want to achieve. Then the third part will of course be how to check, how to evaluate what is the progress. And based on whatever is the progress, we figure out how to improve, how to create feedback systems, or if need be, how to add more terms to it. Now, again, I mean, so to enable this, we have to simply move beyond the culture that SDG reporting is fine. So if excellence has to be embedded into the system, we need to embed it within the larger culture of an institution, right? Which means that the SDGs have to now become a part of the internal and external matrices that govern the institution. The faculty KPIs have, I mean, the key performance areas have to be aligned with the BSc indicator, balance scorecard indicators, which is a measurement of what SDG goal the institution wants to create. And we also need to figure out a method of conducting leadership reviews, which are a part of the Malcolm Baldrige model. And maybe every year we should publish a SDG excellence report, which said that see this is what we have. We had. I mean, it's just how balance scorecard works. So you take out a matrix and you tell them that see this is the things that we have done and these are the parameters that we have achieved. Now, when we do that, the nature of our commitment itself can change. For now, we are happy saying that we are educating 10 people or inducting 10 research projects in something. But the 10 research projects may or may not align directly with the SDG outcomes. Now, if that is the case, then it is important that we start showing progress, right? Because current state is all binary. So you either are doing it or you're not doing it. But in this case, we can start showing shades of progress, right? And that is what these excellence reports should try to do. Okay, so I think I got a very heavy session and I'll leave the rest to an interaction. Uh, so sorry. Why did it come out? So basically, my understanding is that let us start using the current benchmarks that are available, but because they have a limited integration scope, we should start creating our own benchmarks. Now, two methods that I could think of as somebody working on organizational capacity development are integrating two benchmark systems which are already exists. One is the Baldrige model, the other is the balance scorecard model. And together, uh, but when I say together, it is actually the three current models, the Baldrige and BSc plus that you're uh, measuring, that you're developing. They can be used to collect, I mean, to have a continuous improvement and create a pathway for future growth. So this is broadly what I had. I mean, because I am sure there will be a lot of questions. So I kept my presentation short. I am more than happy to take questions.
Now the forum is open for the questions and we can interact with the eminent speaker.
So adding these models in the organization is not an easy task. Like we have many points that need to be considered. Don't you feel
Mhm.
that?
Come again, ma'am.
Like these are the models because the current models which is already going, and the second you were telling up, right? We have
The
to.
current model, see, the current model of what we are measuring are
Yes,
basically binary outputs.
yes.
So whether we do something, whether we don't do something. Is a
Hmm.
project complete? Is a project not complete? But what we are missing out when we are trying to assess something is the
Mhm.
entire capacity building which is going towards it. So if we are trying to create a, S- a SDG outcome, right? Take any
Mhm.
SDG outcome, right? For example, I mean, poverty or reduction of hunger, right? One project will not solve the problem. The
Exactly.
continuation of that one project might. And therefore, it is important that we start moving from standalone matrices, wherein we see one or two or how many projects we have done, to a
Mhm.
process wherein we start monitoring what is the, I mean, if I put it in a plain economic jargon, my capital growth, right?
Mhm.
So it's like, it's not if I start if I start preparing for an SDG outcome today, I will be
Mhm.
able to achieve it tomorrow. It's not possible,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And any it will be a part of a long term affair. Now that long term affair needs some kind of monitoring. Just because there is no outcome does not mean there is no effort, right? And today one of the biggest challenges is that we are just counting what is going on rather than understanding the efforts that are going into creating those. Now unless those streams are aligned, then this is the assessment remains more at a macro level. It will never come down to something which an organization can do or embed in itself to drive excellence. And that is where my assessment parameters or my understanding of the need for a change in assessment parameters come.
Sir, again, one question arises from your words only. Like you yourself said it, we are all working efforts, whatever we are going on, right?
Hmm.
But we are all working on the micro. But actually, the result and outcome should be work on the macro level.
No, no, we have the micro, we have the macro, we don't have the meso.
Yes, yes,
We are making an effort. Micro is telling that this is happening and this is not happening.
exactly,
But
sir.
what should be captured is what should I do to make it happen
But
and
all the
how.
efforts should be need up to be compiled together, no? So to get
Correct,
the outcome.
correct, correct. So that is exactly what I'm saying. I mean, where we are struggling is we are taking the macro, we are doing the micro. We are
Hmm.
not looking at what should an organization do to help it or what should the government do to help it. Right? I mean, just because waste management works in a company or in an institute X does
Hmm.
not mean it is relevant for me. I want to do something else, right? Or just, I mean, see the same or waste level, even the level of waste. So if somebody has a very low wastage, even if 100% may not be good enough. But if
Exactly.
somebody has a very high wastage, even 5% can be good enough. Now,
Very true.
those are the things that we are not capturing today.
Hmm. Good point to be analyzing, matlab, like keeping all these points together and working on that. It's again a point
Right,
that we
right,
have
right.
considered it.
Sir, I
Like,
want to add one point here, like in the very first slide, and when you were showing how many frameworks are related to the topic, and you talk about NAC criteria 7.
Right.
Even now, abhi to we are waiting for the new framework of the NAC. But if we talk about the previous framework now, even the criteria 1 also talks about SDGs, because in criteria 1, 1.3.1 that talks about the cross-cutting issues. Now, what are the courses that are there in the curriculum which addresses several issues? They need to be mapped to the SDGs also. So the
Correct.
criteria 1 is somewhere related to SDG also now.
No, no, I'm not denying this. See, what we are trying to do is we are trying to retrofit a parameter to what we are doing. See, the
Yes.
SDGs were not created for educational institutes alone.
Yeah.
Educational institutes were meant to help in that. Now,
Yes.
I mean, we cannot just go back and say that all the SDGs have to be implemented by the educational institutes, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
what NAC is trying to do is, or what most of these, they're trying to retrofit their criteria to these criteria.
True.
Now,
True.
and the problem with any retrofitting is that something will always be there which will never be fit, right?
Yeah.
There is something which you're trying to do which will never fit the criteria and therefore can never be assessed. But, but even if that is relevant for an SDG, I mean, you can do something for an SDG. You can create some kind of a partnership which may not be covered today under NAC or any of these ratings. But to say that they're not relevant is not true. And therefore, we need to figure out a way. That is what I was trying to say. Whatever you're doing, right? It if the purpose is to have an SDG outcome, they should somewhere be presented in some kind of a matrix which is there. Only then, see, let's understand this basic problem. The basic problem is we are doing a capital assessment. So you have done a waste project, good. You have done a partnership, good. So what you're counting is number of partnerships. You're not counting the quality of the work that is going on, right? So unless you start assessing those quality parameters, how can I say that my 10 is better than your 2 or your 3? Right? I mean, I can create one SDG parameter which will have a major impact, right? Which might outweigh 100 SDG parameters which the other person is doing. But if we just keep counting, that 100% will always be better than this 1%. So, I mean, I'm not saying that whether we should do this or not. I'm just keeping this as a food for thought, as which I think should happen. Because today, what I found while doing this, and this has been my hunch, and therefore I'm speaking out myself, that there are the macro, there is the micro, but it does not tell you how to attain excellence. That part is simply missing. And because it is missing, it would become the onus of somebody to create it. That's all that I'm saying.
Yes, sir. And even now, the DA impact ranking is also talking about the SDG,
Right. They're all trying to retrofit. Wait for 2 more days, everybody will try to get here. But these are retrofittings which are going on.
Yes. More or less, we are working somewhere related to the SDGs. Like if we talk about the Teerthanker Mahaveer University, so we are doing so many things that are aligned with SDG framework. We
Correct.
need to align those things and embed them into the curriculum. Although the
No,
best
not just
practice.
so. It should measure your pursuit of excellence. See,
Hmm,
curriculum is just one part of it, right?
exactly.
I mean, an outcome does not come on the first day. Even if you are striving to do something, right, wherein you are the process of building that, what should I say, a capital called SDG, right?
Hmm.
I mean, that process should also be awarded, no? So a faculty tried to convince teachers or maybe the higher admin that they should have a SDG course. They did not agree or could not get it done. But does that mean that the effort was irrelevant? That's all that I'm saying. You cannot say that the effort is irrelevant. Somebody tried to do something which may not have worked out. And that parameter needs recognition. The
Yes.
only way that you can do that is by creating your own SDG guidelines. That is my broad argument. Just counting will not help.
Do we have any other question?
No?
Actually, then
Thanks.
today you must be aware there is a Indian
Yes,
festival
because
for
of Karwa
Vakyut.
Chauth.
Thank you so
Even
much
then,
for
our participants are like so participative that in spite of doing all the preparation for the evening, they are with us here today.
No, I'm sure.
And we have to take the special permission from the AICT to make a deviation
Okay.
in the time because we can't deviate from the given time of Atal
Okay.
AICT. So when we got this request from the participants, so we have to make this change with their prior approval.
Okay, great. Great.
Yes.
Okay, so any other? So I thought I'll keep it short because frankly, I did not know how to answer it, how to answer the topic which is given to me. Right. It to me was it's more like a googly. Right. I mean, there is absolutely nothing to measure today from an excellence point of view. Yes, we are measuring percentages, we are measuring numbers, but that's it.
Sir, the inaugural of the FDP was got inaugurated by former director, Planning Division, Government of Uttar Pradesh, Dr. Anand Mishra, sir. So he was saying that you take very, very small steps. Although you are doing things, what you need to do, you need to project them in a proper way. First,
Correct.
he said that every SDG should have 1 day workshop so that everyone can get the proper orientation. And then he said that small practices we can do. We can have the emblem of this SDGs in our email after our signature. And then he can have, as an institution, we can have, like we have the vision and mission of the university framed in the on the offices of all the higher senior authorities. So we can also have the framed this SDGs framework in the authorities office, and then the institution should look vibrant with this SDGs.
Which is not very different from what I'm saying. The
Yes.
only thing is that for this there is a need to think. I mean, it's not something. I mean, rather than doing these small things, right? I mean, if I have to do a workshop every day, who's going to take the class, right? And who is going to do the day-to-day admin? I mean, I understand. If I want a policymaker, I want things done. I say do small things, but do it every day. But the practicality also has to be considered. Now, what instead of see, I mean, typically from a very organizational perspective, if an organizational person understands the role of this organization, that person will be far more efficient in creating an outcome rather than that person being told. And this is basic organizational theory, right? So instead of trying to drive what is going on, why don't we just create a learning mechanism, right? Wherein we can understand whatever they are doing and then trying to figure out how we can achieve an SDG out of it rather than doing the other way around. Right? I mean, I'm sure whatever somebody is doing will have an SDG outcome somewhere if we can plug it in the right way. I mean, see, today, whatever you're doing, I mean, nothing is fundamentally departure from something which is going on in SDG.
True.
So it's about understanding the small things that we are doing, creating the culture that promotes that kind of a thought, right? Then, of course, the leadership has to be there. And then plugging it onto a larger mechanism, right? So that if somebody does something, I mean, I'm not even saying go do an SDG course. I'm saying that if you're trying to convince students, right, to think of SDG, even that is a learning process and that needs to be encouraged. So every small bit that will add up should contribute to SDG. Rather than we saying that oh so many courses floated, then only it is SDG. It may
Yes.
not be, no. I mean, you and me talking, there are people who might be doing it for I mean, just for their benefit. If they're doing it, this is a part of an SDG capacity building,
Hmm.
right? It may not have an outcome.
Hmm.
Many of us might forget whatever is going on. But just because there is no outcome does not mean we have not tried.
Yes.
And this needs recognition. That's all that I'm saying.
True.
Right?
So, any other question, or should we wrap up the session now?
No?
So, thank you so much, sir.
Other people are very
for-
confused or extremely.
They are very lovely audience, maybe today.
Or the third option is they need to go.
So,
Thank you, man.
thank you so much, sir, for taking time from your busy schedule and being with us here today.